Hello, I'm here with Karen Zeffelman, and he just escaped with his family by the skin of his teeth from he was living in the Odessa area. And as a matter of fact, his congregation has helped us for many years doing Jewish outreaches in Odessa. Why do I like Odessa? Well, though it's true for most of Ukraine, but in Odessa, I don't know if you know this, Karen, but 50% of the Jewish people, I'm sorry, 50% of your population has Jewish ancestry. It's like it's loaded with Jewish people. And we do lectures on the supernatural, evangelism. And in fact, the last time I was there, we rented remember the big opera house, and we had the rock group Kiss was coming. So that was like advertised on the front of the opera house. And then there was a picture bigger than life size of me. You were about a block away from a big Orthodox Jewish synagogue.
That's right.
And I think we had over 1,000 people, predominantly Jewish, came to the outreach.
Yep, that's exactly true. Yep, that's how it was.
And most of the people made professions of faith to the point where they stood up and acknowledge that Yeshua, Jesus, is not only the Messiah of the world, but the Messiah of Jewish people too. I
Exactly.
called you because the whole world knows what's going on in Ukraine. Behind us, I have pictures of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, different scenes that are going on right at this minute. But last night, what did you hear at your home in Ukraine?
Yes, well, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's still the 24th of February here. So 5 o'clock today in the morning, we woke up with my wife hearing bomb explosions and rockets flying over our apartment building. And then earlier prior to that, my wife heard big airplane engines just roaring above that place where we live. So and then at 5 o'clock, we heard those shells just exploding, boom, boom, boom. I woke up and I realized that it didn't sound like fireworks, but it was something real going on. And then it repeated again. And then when I looked through the window of my apartment, I saw people running back and forth and the cars leaving and people just, getting out of their apartments with the suitcases and getting into their cars and driving away. So
what area is your apartment in?
We are, I don't know how to call it. It's called Slabotka area of Odessa. We only like 10 minutes drive from the city center, from the downtown. And we also on the way of getting out of the city to south and north. So, and the closest bombs that explode to our apartment was only 2 miles away. They were dropped on the military base that it's only 2 miles away from where I live. And that's where they hit it too. So, and they also were trying to target missiles to a military warehouse, but I don't know, they got the wrong information or wrong intelligence, and they instead of hitting the military warehouse, they hit the industrial warehouses. So it could have easily been misled and hit apartment buildings. Like I was only 2 miles, my building was only 2 miles away from where the bombs actually fell. So we heard it pretty loudly and. Yeah.
So your family jumped in your car, and how bad was traffic?
Well, that time of the hour, the traffic wasn't still that bad as it was like an hour after we left. But as I was leaving our apartment complex, I noticed immediately that all the gas stations on our way were packed with lines with cars that are trying to get some gasoline and diesel, and it was impossible to get there. Thank God that the Lord gave me wisdom a few days ago prior to that to fill up the tank of my car so we could, be always ready to go. And then when we came to the first border checkpoint, we couldn't go through because it was just a huge amount of cars there waiting to go through, and it was panic and chaos. And then me and my wife, we just, sitting in the car, we're praying and we're saying, Lord, give us wisdom what to do next, because we realize that we can't cross the border here. It's just impossible. And then the Lord just remind me there's one smaller checkpoint in the fields that not a lot of people know about. So we drove there and there was only 3 or 4 cars. But right after us, when we were going through the border control, there were, again, I looked back and I saw a huge number of cars lining up there as well, and refugees that are trying to escape by foot.
Now, I am told that 30 minutes you got out, you crossed the border 30 minutes before martial law was declared. What does martial law mean?
Yeah, martial law was implemented at that time, and martial law means that it limits your movement, it limits exiting and entering the border, and it also means that all the men from age 18 to 60 are, they cannot leave the country because they can be thrown as reservists and to go and serve the army. So 30 minutes. I had 30 minutes to live with my 18-year-old son, who could have also be, going into the army. And so we were able to escape, and then they closed the border for men to leave. Only women and children.
Now, of course, you're part of a large congregation. I'm sure you've been talking to them by telephone. What's going on with the ones that are stuck there, that can't leave now?
We suggested that, and our senior pastor, Vitaly, he also sent a few video messages to our chats and different groups that we have, church groups on Viber. And we suggested all the people to remain in their homes, especially during the dark hours. So we suggested them to stay online, to be connected as much as possible, to keep the 24-hour prayer chain that is going on right now. We activated this prayer chain, and we are sending prayers and short video on different chats. So we are also right now, we are helping few families to get out of Odessa and make it to Moldova with children. So I'm not going to be in bed till late tonight, because I'm expecting 2 families which are now on the border and waiting for their time to cross the border. They're in the huge line. So, and we're working now to help the refugees to facilitate in the safer places and find food, groceries, and water and clothes, because some people probably left with no clothes with them. So,
do you think that this will last long or be over quickly?
It's hard to say right now, but the way our army is fighting back, in some areas, Russian troops are being retreated and recoping. But there's the heat of the battle right now is taking place not far from Odessa, less than 200 miles from Odessa, in a region called Kherson, which is the borders with Crimea, which was annexated and taken by Russia 8 years ago. And there's the raging fire, and the battle is going on right there for the water pipelines, because Ukraine cut off the Crimea since Russia took it away from us. We cut them off the water supply, and Crimea was in a major drought for the last 8 years. So Russian military is trying now to regain those water pipelines. And what I've just heard 40 minutes ago from a friend of mine, he said that they've been able to take those pipelines, but our army fought back and kicked them out of there, and we regained it again. So that's where the heat.
From what you hear, are there shortages of food, shortages of water, or is everyone okay so far?
Well, what I've heard that nothing left on the shelves in the stores, supermarkets are empty. People just swept everything away: the water, food, groceries, everything. Cash machines are empty. There's no cash to withdraw. The bank system is right now working very slow. So, like my father-in-law, he was not able to fill up his car with the gas because he couldn't withdraw funds from the cash machine, and some gas stations are not taking credit cards anymore, only cash. So
it's almost like unbelievable that you're living in such a circumstance. How about to me on the outside? I say it seems almost unbelievable if it were me. How are you being affected by this?
Well, definitely, it's we had to leave everything behind. We were just able to pack just our children's clothes because we have 4 children. The youngest one are 8 months and 2.5 years old, and then we just grabbed them. And of course, emotionally, it's really difficult. My wife, she's been crying all night long because her parents there, her sister, her nephews, my parents are there, but they will try to come tomorrow. My 13-year-old daughter, she's emotionally really broken because she's praying for her friends, for her classmates. She have no contact, no connection with what's going on. Where is everybody? So it's taking its toll, and especially emotionally. It's really tough to realize that we live in the 21st century, and people like Mr. Putin would use still methods like war and to invade countries like in barbarian times. It just doesn't fit here. I mean, I know you're a man of God and you're among believers of God, but do you think your country was caught by surprise? No, we knew that it will happen. We're just postponing and hoping that it won't happen. That finally they will realize that war is not the way to do things, but maybe still do some negotiations and diplomatic way to solve the problems. But I mean, for the last 2 months, we were aware that something is about to happen because it's not an accident that Russia was drawing so many troops and heavy military weapons to our borders and surrounding us from every side. So I mean, you don't do it just for military exercises. I mean, you don't need so many troops and tanks and aircrafts and submarines and all possibly they have. They drove it close to our borders. So we knew that something will happen.
It's strange to me. It's so well orchestrated, even to the point of what they said a few hours before they did what they did. I mean, it was almost almost a whole play that they had rehearsed on this thing. The world was totally caught by surprise, but the president of the United States kept saying, we're evacuating our people, something bad's going to happen. And I figure he should have known.
Yeah, I think so too. About a month and a half ago, I woke up in the middle of the night with a dream. I rarely see dreams, and if I see dreams, I quickly forget them. But this time, I knew it was a prophetic dream. It was short, but I woke up seeing Russian soldiers walking on the streets of Odessa, and it was so real that I woke up in the cold sweat. And I told my wife about that. I said, I don't want to accept it. I don't want to, I hope it was just a dream, meaning nothing. But it was one of those cases when you wake up with this urgency inside of you and this understanding that this is prophetic. This is something real. So that's why we were getting ready.
I'll go back to the city that, Kyiv and Odessa are my 2 favorite cities in Ukraine. But just this past winter, you have a ministry where you evangelize and give food. In this past winter, your report of 2021 winter, you visited 78 towns, 11,000 people had a presentation of the gospel. 3,400 gave their hearts to Jesus. You trained 200 believers to be evangelists just like you. Because there's like an open heaven, and that's one reason the devil's kicking up, because you were so successful in reaching unsaved Ukrainians.
Exactly.
What can we, those watching from the United States, Canada, anywhere in the world, if they're watching, what can they pray for? Can you get specific for us?
Yes. Well, number one, I think today's the prayer. Number one is that I was just thinking about this, and I remember those supernatural victories that God gave to Israeli army during those 6-day war. Remember,
Yes.
and then during the other wars, the supernatural encounters during the on the battlefield.
Yes.
So I would ask all the prayer warriors in the United States and Canada to agree that God would give our military, our army, our soldiers there on the front lines, those kind of supernatural encounters in the battles, when it would be like David and Goliath. For me right now, Ukraine is like a David standing against a huge, angry, evil Goliath who wants to take over our land, our nation, and our freedom. And so that God would just give us those supernatural swings of the sling that will hit them strong enough so that they will retreat.
It would take an act of God for your military to defeat the military against them. David and Goliath is a great analogy, but guess what? God is going to respond to our prayers.
Amen. I believe so. And also, of course, please pray for the safety of all the civilians, children, women, elderly people. That's really important. Please, that also is needed. And also, please pray that God will provide churches and ministries that are getting involved right now, helping refugees, that God will provide with resources to help, with the refugees, with the food, water, basic things that they would need in the places where they're being dislocated right now, even here in different places where people are escaping into right now. So I would say those are the three major things right now to pray, and of course that for the unity of the nation, that God will give the unity, because that's where we are strong when we united. And this whole situation really united our nation, even though different political parties were enemies before. Right now, to fight these challenges, to fight these battles, and see our country being independent and free. Because Ukraine is one of the most free country when it comes to preaching gospel, practicing your faith, and leading people to Jesus.
Yeah. As I said previously, there is an open heaven in Odessa, Ukraine, and in other cities throughout Ukraine. And I don't know how God's going to do it. This is not God that's causing killing and stealing and destroying.
No.
But I do know this, that the Messiah said, I have come to give you life, the life of God. And this life will make you abundant in every area of your life. And I pray in Jesus' name that this ministry that has been so faithful in reaching the unsaved, this ministry that's been so faithful in partnering with me in reaching Jewish people, so many thousands of the gospel, that you would bless everyone connected with the ministry, their families, and protect them. No weapon formed against them will prosper. I pray that the military will have the same wisdom you gave as the Israelis throughout the Bible, but even in the recent years where the miracles it was beyond the pale. There was no way you could argue, God, that your hand did it. Your hand
Amen.
did it.
Yeah.
And your hand will once more be stretched out over the people of Ukraine, and they will win their battle. And I pray, most importantly, for one of the greatest harvests of souls in history. The Russians and the Ukrainians would unite together in love under the banner of Yeshua, Jesus, the Messiah.
Yeah.
Amen.